Under the cold northern seas where icy currents sweep across rocky bottoms, lies a fish that has shaped economies, diets, and cultures for over 1,000 years: the cod. From the Atlantic, stretching down the American coast to the vast Pacific waters off Alaska, cod remain one of the most valuable catches in commercial fishing. But the story of cod is not simply about abundance. It is also about survival technology and the generations of fishermen who have adapted to both the opportunities and challenges of the ocean. Cod are ground-dwelling fish, often living in dense schools close to the seabed. A typical Atlantic cod grows between 5 and 12 kilograms, though giants weighing more than 50 kilograms have been recorded in deep waters. They feed on crabs, mollusks, small fish, and squid, while migrating over hundreds of miles to spawn. A single large female may release up to 5 million eggs during one season, though only a fraction survive. This incredible reproductive power once gave the illusion of infinite supply, an illusion that centuries of overfishing nearly shattered. For centuries, cod defined maritime trade in Europe. Medieval fleets braved the stormy North Atlantic to haul back salted cod for monasteries and markets. The Vikings carried it to their colonies. Later, Dutch and English merchants expanded the trade, fueling shipbuilding, naval exploration, and wars over access to fishing grounds. Cod was currency as much as food. By the 20th century, however, booming catches in the hundreds of thousands of tons every year began to collapse stocks in the North Sea and beyond. Quotas and bans followed, reshaping the industry. Today, cod remain an icon, but they are caught under much stricter rules. The North Atlantic still supplies much of Europe's cod demand, while American fisheries in New England and Alaska focus on Pacific and black cod. The story of catching these fish has transformed too, from hand lines thrown from small wooden boats to massive steel vessels stretching over 100 feet long, equipped with hydraulic, sonar, and longline systems that stretch for miles beneath the waves. And it is here on these longline vessels that our journey turns. We will follow modern American fishermen into the Gulf of Alaska and the Bering Sea, where cod and salmon are pursued, with gear that blends tradition and technology, all under the watchful eyes of predators above and beneath the water. On the deck of a modern longline vessel, everything is designed for efficiency, endurance, and safety. Longlining at its heart is an old method, a single line stretched across the seabed, with hooks tied along its length. But what once was rope and hand-tied knots is now thousands of feet of high-strength line, coiled neatly in bins and launched into the sea by hydraulic setting machines. A typical longline for cod, or black cod, may stretch anywhere from 2 to 10 miles. Along this backbone are hundreds or even thousands of branch lines, each ending with a baited hook. Fishermen secure the main line with heavy anchors on both ends, then mark its position with floating buoys. The gear sinks to the bottom, sometimes hundreds of meters deep, where cod and halibut patrol the seafloor. Every part of this system is fine-tuned. The spacing of hooks, often every meter or so, reduces competition and maximizes the chance of attracting fish. The bait, traditionally herring or squid, is cut to precise sizes to appeal to the target species. Electronic sonar guides crews to the right depths and habitats rocky ridges for cod, soft, muddy bottoms for black cod, or transition zones where salmon may pass. Hauling the gear is just as critical as setting it. Hydraulic rollers slowly pull the long line back over the side of the vessel. Crew members stand ready with gaffs and hooks, securing fish as they rise from the depths. Atlantic cod with their pale sides and whisker-like barbels appear alongside flat-bodied halibut and sometimes salmon that have struck the bait mid-column. The deck becomes a flurry of motion. Fish are unhooked, sorted, and iced down within minutes to preserve their quality. But fishing is never just a matter of technique, it is a battle of endurance. Weather in Alaska and the North Pacific can change in an instant. Gale force winds, icy spray, and 20-foot swells are routine companions for these crews. Fishermen work in shifts around the clock setting and hauling gear at all hours, often on deck for 12 to 18 hours straight. Their living quarters below deck are cramped with bunks stacked close and galley meals served quickly between hauls. Despite the hardship, longline fishing is often praised for its selectivity. Compared with trawling, which drags huge nets across the ocean floor, long lines have lower bycatch rates and cause less damage to seafloor habitats. For cod and salmon fisheries striving to remain sustainable, that selectivity is a key reason why the method has persisted for generations. Yet, as any modern fisherman will tell you, not every challenge comes from the sea itself. Increasingly, predators like sperm whales and orcas have learned to follow long-line boats plucking fish off hooks before they reach the surface. Crews have watched entire sets of gear come back stripped bare, the only evidence being shredded baits and chewed off remains. This conflict between humans and whales has pushed fishermen toward innovation. Some vessels are experimenting with pot systems, cage-like traps that protect the fish until they are hauled aboard. These changes mark a new chapter in longline fishing, balancing centuries of tradition with modern demands for sustainability and coexistence with the ecosystem. As longliners haul their gear from the depths, they face an unexpected competitor: whales. In recent decades, both sperm whales and orcas have adapted to shadow longline boats, listening for the sound of hydraulics or even following GPS tracking. GPS tracks. Once the gear is in the water, the whales strike stripping hooked fish with astonishing precision. For fishermen, this depredation can mean losing half or sometimes nearly all of their catch before it ever reaches the deck. This feeding at the line puts enormous strain on the industry. Each long line represents hours of preparation, thousands of dollars in fuel, and countless hooks baited and set. To return with empty lines is financially devastating. Crews often move to new grounds only to find the same pod of whales has followed them. It's a high-stakes game of cat and mouse across the North Pacific. Out of necessity, innovation has begun to reshape the fleet. Many vessels are experimenting with pot systems, metal, or composite cages attached to a long line in place of hooks. Instead of dangling exposed fish, enter the pot through funnels protected until the line is hauled. These pots are heavy, collapsible on some vessels, and designed to resist curious predators. By converting to pots, fishermen shield their catch, reduce whale losses, and perhaps most importantly, demonstrate a commitment to sustainable harvesting. The shift, however, is costly. Outfitting a single vessel with pots can run into hundreds of thousands of dollars. decks must be reconfigured to store and handle the bulky gear. Training crews to fish pots efficiently takes time, and the learning curve is steep. Yet many fishermen see no alternative. In Alaskan black cod fisheries, for example, adoption rates of pot gear are climbing, steadily driven both by whale interactions and by regulatory encouragement. Beyond gear, the economics of cod and salmon remain turbulent. Atlantic cod, once the backbone of European and North American fisheries, continues to recover only slowly after decades of overfishing. Quotas across the North Atlantic are tightly managed with the EU, Norway, Iceland, and Canada, all sharing responsibility for sustainable harvests. Even in 2025, total allowable catches are far below historical highs, but stocks show cautious signs of rebuilding. In the Pacific, black cod, also called sablefish, remains one of the most valuable species landed by American fishermen. Its rich oily flesh commands premium prices in Japan and the U.S., fueling demand despite high operating costs. For salmon, Alaska remains the powerhouse, supplying more than half of the world's wild harvest. 2024 returns were stronger than expected in Bristol Bay and Prince William Sound, and early signs in 2025 suggest another solid year, though climate variability looms as an ever-present risk. Prices, however, are volatile. Farmed salmon continues to dominate global markets, often undercutting wild-caught fish. Cod competes against cheaper whitefish species like pollock and tilapia. At the same time, operating expenses fuel maintenance and compliance costs have climbed. For many longliners, profit margins remain razor-thin. Yet the resilience of these communities, bolstered by technology and tradition, keeps them heading back to sea. Aboard a longline vessel, daily life is a relentless rhythm of work, weather, and waiting. Crews often number between 6 and 20, depending on the size of the boat, and every person has a specific role in the fishing cycle. Before dawn, the deck lights snap on illuminating coils of line stacked neatly in tubs. Hooks, sometimes thousands at a time, are baited with herring, squid, or other oily fish. The process is fast and repetitive, with each crew member dropping bait onto the hooks in a smooth, practiced motion. Once the gear is set and the line sinks into the dark water, there is a brief respite. Some crew members grab a quick meal, others retreat to cramped bunks for an hour of sleep. But the calm never lasts long. As the hydraulic hauler begins to reel in the line, the real intensity starts. Cod, halibut, and sablefish break the surface one after another, thrashing as they're gaffed aboard and slid into bins. Every movement is deliberate. Hauling too fast risks tearing the fish free, while hauling too slowly can damage the line or waste precious time. On deck, communication is as important as muscle. Each fisherman must anticipate the next step, whether it's untangling a snarl of line-icing fish to preserve quality or resetting hooks as they're hauled aboard. Mistakes can cost not only the day's catch, but also the safety of the crew. The constant spray, slippery decks, and heavy gear create hazards that demand vigilance and trust. Over time, each crew develops its own rhythm, a choreography where even small gestures convey meaning. For younger crew members, longlining is a rite of passage. They learn from seasoned veterans, men and women, who have spent decades at sea, their knowledge etched into calloused hands and instinctive timing. These traditions passed from one generation to the next, are as important as the gear itself. They ensure not only survival, but also the continuation of a way of life. Between sets, the galley becomes the heart of the vessel. Meals are simple, but hearty stews. Fried fish, rice, and pasta cooked quickly and in bulk to feed tired hands. Coffee flows constantly, helping fight off the fatigue of 18-hour days. Rest. Is scarce, often stolen in short naps, rocked by the motion of the sea. The monotony of labor is broken by the unpredictable, the sudden strike of a storm, the excitement of a heavy haul, or the eerie appearance of whales shadowing the boat. In these moments, camaraderie becomes vital. Laughter stories and the occasional burst of music on deck forge bonds that help carry crews through weeks at sea. Once the Longline haul is complete, the catch is carefully handled to preserve its value. Every cod or salmon is bled, gutted, and packed in ice or frozen almost immediately after being landed on deck. On larger vessels, brine freezers and plate freezers bring the fish down to 30 degrees within hours, locking in freshness and preventing spoilage. Smaller boats without such equipment rely on insulated bins filled with flake ice, which can maintain the fish in prime condition until the vessel returns to port. The role of freezing technology cannot be overstated. In the 1980s, much of the fish was still landed, chilled, and processed locally. But today, advanced freezing allows fleets to fish longer and deliver higher quality products to markets thousands of miles away. Individual quick freezing IQF ensures fillets remain separate and easy to portion, making them ideal for both supermarkets and food service chains. When the vessel returns to port, the catch enters the broader supply chain. Processing plants along the coasts of Alaska, the Pacific Northwest, and New England employ thousands of workers who fillet skin to bone and package fish to meet diverse market demands. Some fish are processed into frozen fillets for export, others into salted or smoked products for niche markets, and premium portions may even be flown fresh to high-end restaurants across Europe and Asia. By 2024, U.S. cod landings reached just under 140,000 metric tons, with much of the harvest coming from Alaskan waters. particularly sockeye and pink, continue to dominate the North Pacific harvest, with combined catches exceeding 400,000 metric tons in a strong year. These figures not only represent food for millions of people, but also billions of dollars in revenue supporting coastal communities, shipping networks, and global trade. But with these numbers comes responsibility. Regulatory frameworks, such as catch limits, seasonal closures, and gear restrictions are vital to ensure fish populations remain healthy. Organizations like NOAA in the United States and international bodies in the North Atlantic and North Pacific set quotas based on scientific stock assessments. Longline fishing, while efficient, is carefully monitored to reduce bycatch and limit impacts on ecosystems. The transition to pot fishing for black cod, as described earlier, highlights how innovation can protect species from depredation by whales while also reducing waste. For salmon hatchery programs and habitat restoration projects, complement fishing restrictions to maintain sustainable runs. Beyond statistics and policy, longline and salmon fishing remain deeply human endeavors. Each fish represents the labor of crews braving storms, working sleepless nights, and carrying forward traditions that stretch back generations. The story of cod and salmon is not only one of global commerce, but also of cultural heritage resilience and the determination of people who make their living at sea.